everybody. How you doing? Woo! Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Postgame Show, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name's Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me, it's the star of the Anthony Gargano Show. It is JP Zapata. Woo! JP, nice little third period there for the Flyers. Nice overtime winner for Matvei Michkov. He gets the first goal in the battle of the 2023 draft between he and Connor Bedard. Fun showdown. It was a pretty decent game. It started at a hell of a pace, really back and forth first period. Chicago gets one on a Flyers turnover. They get another one later on in the game on Patrick Maroon shot that somehow gets through Kolosov. But the Flyers battle through all the way to the third period. They tie it up. Michkov wins it in overtime. Fun afternoon.
Yeah, you're going to have to start, instead of calling me JP, call me OT, because every time I hear we're going into OT with the Flyers.
The Flyers have played an inordinate amount of overtime games this year, and honestly, it does seem to coincide with you being here a lot. It was an interesting day for the Flyers. They dominated a lot of this game.
They did.
From a possession standpoint. They end the day with 37 shots on goal. It's that 37th one that wins it for them. But even before that, through two periods, Flyers had 24 shots. That's a decent number for them. That's basically around what they average. I think they average about 26 for the season. And they had 24 through 40 minutes. That's good. But the thing people want to see is the young players, the young veterans, as they sometimes were referred to during the game today, as well as Matvei Michkov, being the catalysts for a lot of this. We know what Travis Sanheim is. We know what Travis Konechny is. We know what Sean Couturier is. And even though he scored today, that's great. That's not really much of his game anymore. Through those first two periods, while they had 24 shots, Michkov, they didn't credit him with one. And I find that odd. He had a one-on-one chance. He took a backhand high to Mrazek. It hit Mrazek. I guess you can make the argument if he wasn't there, it would have missed everything, so it's not a shot. Like a shot off the pipe doesn't count because if the goalie wasn't there, it wouldn't go in. Maybe that's the logic. But he wasn't credited with a shot. They took it away. Michkov, Frost, Forster, and Tippett combined for none of those 24 shots through those first 40 minutes. And even once some of the guys got going, let's see, Michkov has one shot on goal. Frost has one. He had that in the third period off a broken play. Looked like he had a good chance there. But Forster and Tippett both end up with no shots on goal. Forster does end up with an assist. He's +1. Tippett had a rough day. No shots, -2. You kind of look at both turnovers that led to goals. It's like, what was Owen Tippett doing on some of these plays? Not the best day, but all in all, the Flyers came in. Listen, they're not a good team. But Chicago is tied for last in the league. They're probably dead last now after losing today. And the Flyers beat up on an inferior team. It took overtime to do it, but ultimately the better team won today.
No, I mean, as the season goes on, I mean, that's the one thing you've noticed, right? Like, they definitely, like, they're missing some talent. Like, when, especially, like, in a game like this, it did feel like the Flyers, like, every time the Flyers had momentum, here comes the Chicago Blackhawks with a freaking goal or a nice play.
They had a lot of shifts, the Flyers. Like, there were a lot of Chicago chances, both goals off of turnovers, and a bunch of breakaways and odd man rushes that Chicago had that Kolosov ultimately made stops on. They're pressing for offense. They get a few attempts. They make a couple of plays, and then suddenly they just condense too far down, and there's a 2-on-0 the other way or something. That happened a bit too much today. It seemed when the Flyers did try to get the puck to the middle of the ice on offense, that's when Chicago sort of pounced and was able to turn it up for a breakaway or a 2-on-1 or something. And that's something Flyers need to cut down on. Like, you don't need the middle of the ice, like the seam right up the middle being exploited on you like a tight end just like, and I'm opened. Yeah, like a Brent Selleck touchdown. Like,
wow, you went Brent Selleck. I like
just
that.
gonna go straight down the middle, and I bet you everyone forgets I'm here. Like that sort of play. But for the most part, the Flyers were the far superior team today. Want to look at the Michkov versus Bedard matchup. Talked about it in pregame. They even showed highlights of the U18 World Championships.
They did, dude. That was cool.
In which Michkov scored and was named MVP of the tournament. But Canada and Bedard ended up winning the thing. And today, Michkov, a small measure of revenge, scores the overtime winner on what was his only official shot on goal. Again, odd that they marked that other shot a miss, even though it hit Mrazek, but whatever. 17-17 time on ice. He scores the goal. Bedard, 18:05 time on ice, led all Chicago forwards. No shots on goal. And I think that's 12 straight games without a goal for Bedard now. Just kind of struggling to find the back of the net. They've moved him to left wing from center because he was struggling so badly in the face-off circle. He's having some trouble right now.
Sophomore slump?
He's also, it could be, he's also, like when they talk about teenagers in the league right now, Michkov is a teenager for another couple of weeks. His birthday's in early December, I think. Mm-hmm. Bedard doesn't turn 20 till like July, I believe. He is very young. Something I talked about with Greg from CHGO the other day. Like, he is a legit college freshman, 19. Doesn't turn 20 for, till the season is well over. Chicago season's basically over now already. But the actual season, he doesn't turn 20 for a while. So he is much like a Jet Luchenko, very, very, like young for his age, which is a funny thing to say. But like considering his age group, he's pretty young and just kind of struggling right now. But Matvei Michkov has not been without his struggles either. But he finds a way, man. And you just see...
You talked about it pregame.
Yeah, you just see those one or two plays throughout the game, even when he's not having the biggest impact on a game overall. He's had nights where he's the best skater out there.
Right.
Today, I think probably a better game than his numbers, and it finally pays off with the overtime winner. Few really good setups that his teammates either mishandled, misfired, or whatever. Tried to make the play all by himself down low on the backhand that honestly could have beaten Mrazek. Hell of a game for Mrazek, but I'm happy for him getting to have this head-to-head matchup. And that continues our, Mish steps up in these situations. Not only is it head-to-head with Bedard for the first time since those, I guess, the U18 World Championships. Yeah. Not only that, it was an NHL Network game today. We were lucky to have a local feed. Sometimes you don't get those.
Right.
But it's an NHL Network game, another kind of national sort of game, if you have traditional cable. Yeah.
What's that?
It's a national game. But it is just really does have a flair for the dramatic, does number 39.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this during the pregame show. Like, every time there's that big matchup, as we're seeing the sights and sounds here from the Wells Fargo Center in the game.
Yeah, our own producer, Julia, was able to grab some video from today's game so we can actually show the highlight of the game winner for once. That's always nice. It's just like,
look at that place, dude.
I get it. And it's cool. Like, it's an afternoon game, a little more full than usual. And they have the third period comeback, so people are amped. Travis Konechny draws, after what was almost a disastrous turnover, draws a penalty just by working his ass off to get to some open ice. Gets hauled down. They get the 4-on-3 in overtime, and Michkov wins it with some good puck movement, sneaking down low.
It was a great play setup too, man.
It was. I really do, and I feel bad because I made a joke on Twitter about Rocky Thompson, and I'll tell you, like at the beginning of that power play, there was nothing going on, and even JJ just goes, not a ton going on, even away from the puck. Like nobody's moving, doing anything, and then finally they got it to a place where Michkov's up high. Gets the puck across ice down low, and then instead of everyone standing still, Couturier moves from down low, like at the bottom of the circle, to in front to kind of take a man and create a little confusion there. TK finds Michkov on the back door.
Nice little seam.
Nice seam pass there. Gets
Buried
it in for the goal. Real nice play. I got to credit Rocky Thompson as well, but it's just nice when Michkov does this stuff because he's the main character. And when he comes through, it's like, well, today made sense. There was a reason for today's game.
Well, here's the difficulty because like I'm an extremely impatient man, right? And so like now I'm watching this and I'm like, dude, wait till we're like really good, right?
I know.
And it's like Game 7, and it's a Pittsburgh Penguins, and Michkov's ready to get that game winner. Like I'm just putting these images in my head, and he's already showing you in year 1. Like this
couple of overtime winners
moments
already. This is again, it's his 7th goal of the season, I believe. 6 of them have come with multiple days in between games, so maybe that's something like, I don't know if it's the conditioning or just getting used to the grind of the season. More than anything, like that's what it is. Like he's never played against the best players in the world every other night for months at a time before. Now when he just gets a little bit of breathing room, he seems to be very good. And that's, again, scores on the power play tonight. It's not a 5-on-5. It's not even like even strength at overtime. But when he just has a little bit of room, and as this team continues to turn over the roster a little bit, bring in some more talent, that'll create more room for him as well. It's just like, damn, this is fun when he's the guy doing this stuff.
I wish we had CHGO right now because I want to know what they're feeling like right now after this one.
It's just another step. I guess if I was them, I'd go, why'd we have to lose in overtime? Why couldn't we lose in regulation? And it's just another step towards another top 5 pick for them. And ultimately, Flyers can end up in that same range. They came in 8th from the bottom in points and points percentage. Like, they're not exactly good either. But you see them up against a team like Chicago, and while I think a number of these guys, like Morgan Frost, Rasmus Ristolainen, and at least one winger, need to be traded just to create some balance, figure out who else can be evaluated now once there's some balance in the lineup. But, like, some of these dudes are going to be here.
Yeah.
A lot of Chicago's guys are like 30 and older. They're not going to be there. You want to outplay them because you want to believe you're further along than they are.
But Bill, like, like this sport is so fascinating because, like, when you look around, like, I look at the other sports, like, there are like some rebuild examples that you can kind of like, oh, I want to do it like that. But in this sport, like, I don't know if like a rebuild that I can say like, dude, that's what I want the Flyers to kind of try to emulate. Like, there's not like a perfect equation for a rebuild in this league.
Colorado is the closest thing. And, like, that took forever.
That's
like,
right.
You look at the way that thing went. There were so many different waves of it. Like, they moved on from Ryan O'Reilly. They moved on from Matt Duchene. I think Landeskog was, like, the 2011 draft. Like, that's a really long time ago.
Yeah, dude.
And then, like, okay, and then some other guys start to trickle in. You get McKinnon. Some other players come along. But it's like McCarr in 2017, and they win 5 years after that draft. Like, it took forever. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And I don't know if the Flyers way is right. It's not how I would have done it, but we're past that now.
Right.
Like, I just need it to work because the alternative is we start over again. And that's going to take even longer.
It's more than just getting top-end talent. It's been clear. Even if you look at, like, the Buffalo Sabres type. Like, it's more than that.
You look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, we talk about this flair for the dramatic, and hopefully when this team is good, that translates to Michkov stepping up in the playoffs, stepping up in big games, being that guy who shines brightest, like his GM. Danny Briere was a good player.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't a superstar in the league. And then the playoffs came, and he was a star. Like, he was damn good, but he wasn't up here,
right?
You know? But he was when the playoffs started. That's you. If Michkov can be star and then even bigger star when the playoffs come, that's what you hope that what we're seeing right now at 19 translates. And at this moment, you know, November 23rd, I don't see why it won't. Like, we only have hope to go on right now, and Michkov is he's
that killer
absolutely
mentality, guys,
giving it to us. And before we go any further, it's Empire time, baby.
Woo!
1-800-588-2300
Today.
With Empire Today, you get that shop at home convenience. You get the right product for your needs, and you get that quick and professional installation. Empire Today, I've been telling you for months now, maybe a year, that they are the #1 place to get new flooring. And you know what that means. It means they have copycats. And those copycats cannot compete with Empire today on quality, service, or speed. So they just advertise, we have the lowest prices. And you know why? Because they're showing you low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. That's why Empire doesn't promise the lowest prices, because anyone who does that, they're putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their own. The Empire philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. That's why their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find those perfect styles, and you can see them with the virtual floor designer. Just snap a picture, see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details. And while we're here, you know I've been fighting it lately, finally starting to get back to health. If you want to maybe skip this step, check out your local Rite Aid. Just go to Rite Aid. Help protect yourself from things like pneumonia. Adults aged 50 and older are now eligible for the pneumonia vaccine. It used to be age 65. CDC lowered the age recommendation to 50. Nobody wants pneumonia. Nobody wants any of the number of things that can go wrong with you this time of year. So check out your local Rite Aid, because some people say you are dealing with pneumonia. Yeah, some people have mild symptoms. You get over it in like a week or so. Others experience very serious complications, and the vaccine is one of the best ways to keep yourself healthy, and it's usually no cost with insurance. Getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule online at riteaid.com. Unsure of what vaccines you might need? Just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today. All right, I want to talk Michkov, great today with the overtime winner. Played a little with Morgan Frost. The lines got mixed up. I think like halfway through the second, we started seeing Michkov with Tippett and Couturier, and Frost gets bumped down. Ultimately, Frost doesn't end up playing a ton, just under 14 minutes in his return to the lineup. No points, is an even at plus-minus. 1 shot on goal, 3 blocks. He did, Charlie kept noting a lot of defensive tenacity for Morgan Frost, and maybe that's after a prolonged time off. Maybe you don't quite have your hands back yet. Maybe you're not quite in the flow of the game. Yeah. But you can control your effort, and defense is mostly effort. He showed a lot of that today. But Torts has told us time and time again, honestly, I don't care. Like, it's nice that he can play. He's more of a two-way player than ever, and the details of his game have come along. But Morgan Frost needs to score. He didn't today.
I'm kind of with that too, Bill. Like, I need more like offense from him. And like that one shot he put on, I mean, it was right to Mraz. Like, it really didn't scare him.
It was a broken play, and like maybe if they get the pass over to him sooner, he can get a little bit better of a shot. But he has the 1 shot on goal, and it's just right into Mrazek's chest. Now, Mrazek played a hell of a game today.
Yeah, he did.
He was really, really solid. But like, come on, Morgan. You have to be able to finish. And he's still sitting there at 1 goal on the season. You know, like Noah Cates has 1 now. Ryan Poehling has 1. You are in the category of the centers who can't score, and you're supposed to be our only center who does score.
I mean, I know we've had this conversation countless of times on the show, but like, I'm so over the situation.
I know.
I'm like the trade rumors. Is he going to get healthy scratch? Is he going to score? There's always something with Morgan Frost. I just feel like he's not that good for me to just worry about Morgan Frost.
It's, and check it out on our YouTube page. It's up now, but I talked to Rachel Dory of Betalytics this week. She's an ESPN contributor as well. And she's like, the Flyers are just an endless source of entertainment. And they really are. Like, that is 100% true. Like, for a team that, they finally have Mish, but like no top-end talent and really none to speak of over the last, outside of Claude Giroux, decade. Like, no playoff success to speak of. They won 1 round since 2012, and it's in the bubble against a Montreal team that I don't even think like would have been there under normal seeding rules.
Literally.
Like, there's nothing really to speak of for them on the ice, and yet it's a constant thing. And Morgan Frost is one of these constant things. Former first-round pick, wearing the number that the GM used to wear. He has shown us the flashes sometimes, but it's just like,
dude, you were talking about...
where are we going with Morgan Frost? This conversation is a carousel. And Charlie, like, that's what he's like. And you know what's going to happen? He's going to get on a hot streak sometime in December. And from December through February, it's like, oh, he led the team in points for this amount for these 8-9 weeks, whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, but like the season is October to April and hopefully longer, in the grand scheme of things. And this is just what he is. This is all he is. He is a good player. But is he a player you need on your favorite team? No.
I mean, when you're winning cups, do you envision a player like Morgan Frost on the lines? Like, because I personally don't.
I guess if you have a consistent offense and you're just like, yeah, he could be our 3C, and he's a nice point-producing third center who we don't need. Like, that's the thing, is he's a luxury player.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man, when he's hot, he's real good, but we can survive without him. This is a team that can't survive without him right now. And you know who I could never survive without, quite honestly?
That's a great segue.
It's redheads keep me alive, honestly, personally, and professionally. This one, it's professionally. It's Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. Chuck, hey, at least like it went to overtime, but it's a day game, so you'll get out of there in some semblance of time. Before we get into the rest, thoughts on the game and any standout comments from the post-game availabilities?
Yeah, I think my thoughts on the game are pretty much in line with what John Tortorella said after the game, which is that they played a pretty good game. First 2 periods, yeah, they make a couple mistakes. They blow that 4-on-2 that leads to a goal. Then Kolosov gives up a real howler on the second one. But beyond that, the first 2 periods, I thought the Flyers played well. They generated a lot of chances. They just couldn't finish. And look, some of that is their inherent flaws as a team. They are not a good finishing team. They haven't been for the last few years. Last year, they weren't a great finishing team either. So that's just something that you're going to have to deal with this team. That said, with the amount of scoring chances they created in the first 2 periods, they should have at least had 1 goal, if not 2. Like, they played well enough to at least be tied in that game, if not winning. And then suddenly they're down 2-0. Third period, in all honesty, they probably didn't even control the play as much as they did in the first 2. It's just a couple pucks went in. Sean Couturier makes a real good play on the first goal. And then Noah Cage just gets the puck on net. Cam York sets a really good screen, which, like, the defenseman setting a screen, that was a weird play, but hey, it worked. And then you get the game to overtime, and Matvei Michkov now has 2 overtime goals in the last 2 weeks. Like, this is just kind of maybe something we need to start expecting from him, that, like, he's just going to come up big in these situations, and you get it to overtime and let Michkov make his magic happen. And it's more or less what happened here. I thought overall team played pretty well. It's just that they have flaws. They got a little unlucky, and then third period they finally got some luck and got some finishing, and then let Michkov do his stuff in overtime.
Charlie, maybe I'm just looking for it, but Matvei Michkov, you said it. He seems to have a real flair for the dramatic. Now, overtime, like, you give this guy time and space, and he's a magician, so it makes sense. But you just look at the teams and opponents he's scored against. 2 goals against McDavid. A goal at Washington in front of Ovi, 3 points in 2 games against him. Goal and an assist against Kaprizov's Wild. Goal and assist against Celebrini and Will Smith, who got drafted ahead of him in 2023. And then the overtime winner against Claude Giroux Sens, now head-to-head against Connor Bedard, gets another overtime winner. Is there something to this that maybe he just has a little bit more? Is it just random? I know you probably think it's just random, but I don't know. I see a pattern here.
I was actually on board with you until you threw Claude Giroux's Ottawa Senators. I don't think Matvei Michkov cares at all about Claude Giroux.
But I do.
You do. You care. I think the Senators are the one team that doesn't quite fit in that narrative because they are kind of an irrelevant team in the grand scheme of things. The other teams, yeah, maybe. Maybe he was a little bit extra ramped up to play Celebrini, Will Smith. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's bitter that he got taken over him. Who knows? McDavid definitely, Ovi definitely. So there might be something to it. I think you're stretching it a little bit with Ottawa, but you know what, Bill? Sure, it makes you happy to see him score against Drew.
It's also an overtime winner, which makes it a bit more dramatic.
That is fair. And I asked Michkov, because we talked to him today after the game through the translator Slava, and I asked him, what allows him to to have the right mentality, to be able to come through in these moments, which does seem like it's becoming his thing, at least in the early stages of NHL career. And I have to go back and transcribe the exact quote, but great line from Michkov. He basically said, "You have to be cold-blooded." That's good. That's the good stuff right there. So cold-blooded Michkov, I like it.
Cold-blooded. We got some returns today, some much-awaited returns. You called Frost you called York a defenseman. He is obviously a rover setting that screen. But how did you think Frost, York, and Andre looked in their returns to action after some time off?
Yeah, I thought Andre was mostly good. He made some mistakes, but I thought he was doing stuff. Love that one play he made in the first period where he has the stretch pass to Michkov and then follows it up and ends up getting a chance as well. Like, a lot of defensemen make that pass and they just hang back. Nah, Andre's going. Love that about him. Had some good defense too on Bedard once where he played him real tight. Didn't show any didn't show any fear. I think that's what I tweeted out on Blue Sky, that there was no fear in Andre. Made some mistakes. He's a little rusty, but he was fine. York, I thought, in the early stages of the game, and John Tortorella agreed, he mentioned this as well in his postgame, but early stages, first half of the game, York looked very rusty. He did not look good. Thought in the third period, he started to kind of come back into form. Obviously, has the really good screen on the Kate Skull. As for Frost, I thought he was playing with a lot of energy. I thought the effort and the jump was there. Tortorella, after the game, praised his defensive work, said he really liked the competitiveness that he showed. That said, Morgan Frost is in the lineup to score. And he didn't do a lot with the puck. He had that one really good chance in the third period that he puts right into Peter Mrazek's chest. That was the one time where you're like, oh, man, if he would have got that, that would have been a great story to write. But he just needs to do more with the puck. I like the energy. I like the compete, and so did John Tortorella. That said, like, you're not putting Morgan Frost in the lineup to be a checker. You're putting him in the lineup to do things with the puck and score, and he didn't do that tonight. So, mixed bag, I would say, from Frost. Mixed bag, really, from all of them. Frost was the one I was keeping the closest eye on just because, if Cam York has a bad game, it's a bummer, but whatever. If Morgan Frost completely flopped tonight, like maybe they trade him tomorrow, I don't know. So I was obviously, paying extra close attention to Frost. He clearly wants it, like the effort's there, but they just need more from him, and he knows that.
Yeah, that's we said the same thing earlier. Like maybe a couple of basically 2 weeks out of the lineup, you're a little rusty. Maybe you don't have your hands, you don't have the flow of the game. But you do have control of your effort. I saw plenty of that tonight. It's just like, bro, you got to score. And more than anything, you got to score against Chicago. So Chicago sends us those 2 second-round picks that CHGO said maybe they'd be willing to give up in a trade.
Okay.
Tell you who had a hell of a game tonight, another potential trade target for teams fighting for playoff positioning, Rasmus Ristolainen. He was all over the freaking place. Talk about a rover. I don't know how he didn't score on the wraparound, but a couple good keeps at the line, some plays down low. What was up with Risto tonight? He seemed motivated.
The wraparound was funny. I enjoyed that. I really thought he was going to score on that play. Really did.
I can't believe he didn't.
Yeah, it looked like it was going in, and then there's the desperation play from the Chicago defenseman basically stopped it. No, Risto was good. Strong underlying metrics. I think Natural Stat Trick has him at 68% expected goals for percentage of 5-on-5. So passes the numbers test. Best on ice goals, expected goals for percentage on the Flyers defense. Yeah, he had a good game. They bounced the pairings around a lot. They shook them up. Andre spent some time with Sanheim. Risto started. He ended up with Sealer, but he was bouncing around. They were really juggling them. Yeah, Risto was good. He made an impact, and look. I do think the end game with Ristolainen is he's ultimately going to be traded before his contract is up. But, I don't think he's going to be traded tomorrow. This is something where if he gets moved, it's going to be at the deadline or it's going to be in the offseason. So until then, Ristolainen is a key part of this defense. He's one of their top 4 defensemen, both in depth chart and in usage. So for him to have good games, it's important, especially when you've got guys like Cam York and Emil Andre coming back from injury and are going to be a little rusty.
Hey, Charlie, JP here. I want to talk about the Flyers offense here today. 37 shots. Lawrence even himself had 8. Was it Mrazek having a really good game, or was just they couldn't simply finish here today?
Probably a little both. As I've said, this Flyers team has a finishing problem. They do. They absolutely do. And it just comes down to I think just true talent level. Like they just don't have enough guys that are plus finishers. And especially when you've got guys like Tyson Forrester and Owen Tippett are cold, they're just not scoring as much as you want them to, given the quality of shooting they do have in terms of raw talent, then they're really going to struggle to score. So I think that's certainly part of it. But Mrazek played well. Mrazek, especially in the first 2 periods, thought he played very well. He was making some tough saves. He wasn't giving up too many rebounds. He was having a strong game. Then in the third period, I don't think he was bad, but he just showed some cracks. I don't think either of those goals are terrible goals he gives up. Obviously, the Michkov one, like, no way he's stopping that. That's just a fantastic pass. But, the Couturier play, like, yeah, maybe he could have stopped that. Would have been an incredible save. I guess you could give him some grief for the Cates goal. But again, he's going through a really good screen by Cam York. Like, yeah, he could have stopped that one. But overall, he had a strong game. I think he was a big part of the reason why the Flyers struggle to score. But you have to remember that the Flyers as a team are just going to struggle to score a lot because they don't have a ton of finishing talent.
Charlie, on the other end, Alexei Kolosov gets a win, stops 19 of 21 for a 905. The Pat Maroon, who might be the ultimate former Flyer in the league right now in terms of scoring against the Flyers. 8 goals career against them. 18 points. But I thought Kolosov, other than the Maroon goal, pretty solid. A couple of stops on breakaways, odd man rushes. What did you think of, I guess, essentially the number 3 right now?
Well, I mean, he made saves. He made some big ones. I thought one big save he made was that shorthanded breakaway.
Yeah.
That was in the beginning of the second period, I believe, when the score was 1-0. Great save, big momentum stop there. Kept that game maybe from completely spiraling out of control for the Flyers. So he made some big stops. It's just hard for me to call it a good game because that second goal was so bad. Like, that's a goal that you need that puck to be stopped. You do. And Flyers obviously win. They get past it. They outscore that mistake. But that's a big mistake. And I go back to what John Tortorella said a few years ago about Felix Sandstrom. It's like, look, Felix Sandstrom makes big saves, makes 3 or 4 big saves a game. But if he's giving up 1 goal a game that he should stop, that's not NHL caliber. Like, I can't trust a guy who's giving up 1 bad goal a game. And with Kolosov, at least tonight, that was what happened. He gave up a really bad goal. Flyers obviously make up for it. They end up winning in overtime. If he doesn't give up that bad goal, maybe they win in regulation. So I don't think he was terrible, but yeah, goaltending is a position where 1 bad play can kind of spoil a game, and I think that's kind of what happened with Kolosov. Like, I don't think he was bad. I still like him as a prospect. He's got potential. I think he's best served in the AHL. I do. Now, whether he's going to go there is another story, but like every time I watch him, all I think is, this guy should be in the AHL. And that's not me like burying him. That's just me saying he's a young goalie who has a lot of potential, who shows flashes of brilliance, and then makes mistakes that you're hoping as he matures, he will make fewer of. I think that would be best served happening in the AHL, not in the NHL, but obviously it's a weird situation and we'll see how it plays out. So overall, he was okay, I guess. But again, you give up that bad of a goal, it's not an okay game. That's a goal. Like, there are some goals that are not great, but like whatever, sometimes you give up a weak one. That was a terrible goal. Like, there's no world where that goal should be allowed, and it does put a damper on the rest of his game. I'm sorry.
I think it was like a .02 expected goal, like on that shot, and it ends up in, like, that's rough. Owen Tippett plays sub 14 minutes for just the second time this season. He's a -2. No shots on goal, which it's like, bro, that's like your thing.
Yeah.
What'd you make of Owen Tippett's game tonight? A lot of people online very unhappy with Owen Tippett.
Yeah, it wasn't good. He didn't have a good game. He didn't have an impact. I think I saw, whether it was you or someone else on Twitter, make the point that he can do a lot of good things. He's just never putting them together in one sequence this year. He'll be real fast and then he'll flub a puck move, or he'll, make a great maneuver with the puck and then rip the shot 10 feet wide. Like, he's not putting together sequences of all the good individual things that he occasionally is showing. Yeah, he's not having a good year. And now we're 21 games into the season. We're past the point where you can say this is a cold stretch, because he got on a little bit of a hot streak on that road trip and then has gone right back to not looking good again. So, look, I'm not saying that like Owen Tippett is bad. I think he will eventually get his goals, but I am starting to think that like this just might be a bad year for him.
That's kind of what I've been thinking. Like, I think I know what Owen Tippett is. I'm not ready to be, oh my God, that contract's a disaster. I bet you it's fine and it plays out fine. But this is shaping up to just be that year where you go, man, we expected him to hit 30 and he had 14. Not great. And maybe that's just the way this year goes for him. I'm not worried in the long term, but it sucks because he's a guy you were like hoping to see take a step forward. Do you have anything else, JP?
That's all I got.
All right, Charlie, hit us with those 3 stars of the game, starting with star number 3.
Yeah, star number 3, I'm actually going to go with a Blackhawk. I thought Lucas Reichel, I thought, was really good in this game, despite the fact that he's on the 4th line. He gets that nice goal early, but I just thought overall he was very noticeable in this game. He's a young guy. I think they have pretty solid expectations for. I was surprised going into this game that he was starting on the 4th line, and then immediately he scores a goal. He looks like an intriguing young player, and you pointed out on Twitter during the game that it's weird looking at this Blackhawks roster because they have so many old dudes. He's one of the few young dudes that they have on their roster. And I thought he showed well. I thought he was, like, let me put it this way. I noticed him, which shouldn't be the case. I noticed him more than I noticed Bedard. So Reichel is my 3rd star.
Yeah, I know, we'll do this after star. Star number 2.
Star number 2, I'm going to go with Sean Couturier. Saw a lot of frustration with Couturier over the first 2 periods. It seemed like he became, especially because he had that one really good chance in front that he wasn't able to finish on. It seemed like he became like the stand-in for all the frustration that fans were having about the team not being able to finish in the first 40 minutes. But then he comes up with the big goal. And that was what the Flyers needed. They just needed 1 because they were playing well enough where you were like, if they just get 1, they're probably going to get 2 because they're outplaying this team. The Blackhawks are not very good. So just find a way to get that 1, and the second one will probably come naturally. Couturier is the one who finally breaks the door down. Another strong game by the advanced metrics. Obviously, you want to see Couturier score more. He gets the goal tonight, but he's playing good hockey. He is playing good hockey, aside from the fact that he's not scoring as much as people want. But the core of his game is strong. So it was nice to see him get rewarded. For that reason, 2nd star.
And finally, tonight's 1st star.
Yeah, 1st star is Matvei Michkov. And it's funny because I don't think he played all that well through most of the game. He had some plays. He had that one between the legs one in the first period that Andre then followed up on off the stretch pass. So he made some plays, but he also flubbed some passes, uncharacteristically, had some turnovers that you don't usually see him make. But the great thing about Matvei Michkov is that even if he's having a relatively underwhelming game, he still seems to have that knack for coming through when it matters the most. And the fact that we're seeing that from a 19-year-old is really cool. Because if he's got that innate ability now, like, imagine how often he's going to come through when, like, the rest of his game fully comes together. It's really exciting. Fans have every right to be as excited as they are about Matvei Michkov, and for that reason, he is my 1st star of the game.
Perfect, Charlie. I know for the most part you pay attention to the Flyers. That's your main goal. You cover the Flyers. This is a Flyers show. But it's Mish versus Bedard. Like, this was kind of a big deal. Yeah. They showed during the broadcast, like, the U18s from a couple of years ago when Michkov wins the tournament MVP, but Bedard, wins the tournament, basically. And, like, it's kind of a rivalry. It might end up being the top 2 players from that draft, even though, we were lucky enough to get Michkov at 7. Bedard really struggling right now. They've moved him to left wing from center. He has not scored since October 26th, almost a full month since his last goal. Led all their forwards at ice time with over 18 minutes tonight, but doesn't get a shot. What the hell is, like, it's just weird, right? Just sophomore slump?
I'm not even ready to call it a sophomore slump because, I mean, looking at his numbers, he still has 15 points in 20 games. Like, he's still producing overall. He's going through a little down period. And it's probably instructive for Flyers fans to look at what's going on with Bedard, who was the one player in that draft class who universally people thought higher of him than they did of Michkov. I mean, if Connor Bedard can go through 2-3 weeks of struggles in his sophomore year, like, don't freak out when next year in December Michkov goes 3 weeks without a goal. Like, it's going to happen. This is what happens with young players. They go through struggles. They do. They all are. Even Michkov, Bill, even Michkov will go through struggles. He will. It's going to happen. And it's going to be part of the developmental process. And we're seeing with Bedard that it's hitting him right now just how difficult it is to be a really good NHL player. I fully expect that he's going to get there. I think that maybe as soon as next year, he's going to be one of the better players in the NHL. But it's going to take time. It takes all these guys time. Very few players are Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin good in their first season. And even those guys got better. So Bedard, he's not having a huge impact right now. There's probably some things he needs to work through, some things he needs to improve upon. He probably just needs a heavy dose of increased confidence too, because he's probably gripping the stick too tight and just feeling it. But I fully expect he's going to get it going at some point, just like when Matvei Michkov invariably has his struggle period, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, whatever. When that inevitably happens, don't freak out, because he's going to work through it, because he's a really good player, just like Bedard is.
Russian machine never breaks, Charlie.
Okay.
All right, that is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us from the Wells Fargo Center. What are we doing next? Monday, they play again, right? So we'll probably have pre- and post-game that day. I don't even know when we're doing studio shows again next with all the holidays and everything coming up. But I'll talk to you Monday, Chuck.
See you, Charlie.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, and while we have a second, why don't I tell you about our friends at TrueMark, baby? Woo! That's right. I'm telling you about TrueMark Financial Credit Union right now, and we all know how hard it is to win without proper coaching. That's why John Tortorella is so important, damn it. But we all know how hard it is to win without that proper coaching. And if you got kids, TrueMark has the ultimate playbook for teaching financial responsibility with a free Greenlight account. The Greenlight app is changing the game, helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. They can set up savings goals, track their spending, and even get an allowance all right there in the Greenlight app. And this is the cool part. Each kid gets their own debit card so they can make purchases and learn real-world money skills while you stay in control from your phone as the parent. I could probably use this. I don't know who would be the responsible one, but making sure I'm making the right choices. But I could probably use this as an adult. So make sure you get your kids that fine-tuning, because you don't want them turning out like me at 36, having no idea how to handle their expenses. You get peace of mind and get the freedom, and your kids get the freedom to make smart decisions with their money. It's like coaching your kid through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, it's free. With the holidays right around the corner, now is the perfect time to introduce your kids to Greenlight. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information. And, Greenlight is one thing, but the light I'm interested in, it's ice cold Coors Light, baby. This team drives us absolutely nuts. Charlie insinuating that the Mad Russian might one day go through struggles of his own. That drives me nuts. That's why I need to choose to chill with an ice cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about, the draft, goalies, the Mad Russian, whatever it is, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies. Because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, sometimes you just got to chill. Make the most out of times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door, or find a store near you by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Speaking of the cold Rockies, you want to see a cold picture?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
We'll send it in a sec. But, another point, too, to get your Philly sports fandom excited. Dude, we could potentially be having 3 rookies of the year this year. Quinyon Mitchell, Jared McCain, Matvei Michkov.
That would be a lot of fun.
A great time in Philadelphia.
Finally, the youth renaissance comes through. And it really would be something to see Michkov come away with a Calder trophy. Flyers have never won one in the past, and that is really cool. A couple of young guys meeting up after the game. Obviously, the on-ice rivalry. Man, I don't think they show the ceremony from those U18s of Michkov after winning tournament MVP, like getting the silver medal. I have never seen somebody more pissed off to be handed some sort of trophy. I realize it's the runner-up trophy, essentially.
Right.
But, seeing his face as he's being handed that silver medal was so freaking encouraging.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, this guy hates losing.
That's what we wanted, dude.
Absolutely hates it so much. And listen, he's going to have his fair share of losing over the next couple of years. Like, this team is not good, and they need to lose to get better. I got into a big thing, because Charlie alluded to it, like this Chicago roster. And people thought I was talking about how bad the roster is. And they're like, no, they're sacrificing now for later. That's what you do during a rebuild. Yes. My issue with the way Chicago is doing it, with a whole bunch, like their average age is probably over 30.
Right.
They have so many dudes who are like not in their 20s. Obviously, you have a teenager in Bedard. That's the ultimate prize. That's what you want. He's the potential superstar. That's all that really matters. They've made 8 first-round picks over the last 3 years. That's huge. They have a bunch of guys in the AHL. That's huge. They're developing there. My issue with the way Chicago is doing it is simply those guys in their 30s right now will not be there in a few years when it's time for them to take a step forward. That means these games that they're playing right now, a lot of ice time is being wasted. And the evaluations they're going to have to make, because, a lot of their players are going to turn out. And Bedard's going to be fine. And a lot of again, they drafted at 2. They've drafted at 7 in the last couple of years. A lot of these guys just might be real damn good, and that's great. I bet you a bunch of them are Joel Farabees, Owen Tippett's, guys that are going to take a little longer. You need a little more information about. They won't be making those evaluations until they get to the NHL roster.
That's a good point.
And then you can't start until then. It just seems to be a waste of time having, like, listen, the Flyers have wasted plenty of time. And I talk about that all the when guys like Mark Stahl or Eric Johnson play over the Helge Granzes or the Emil Andres. It's like, what are we doing? But that's not happening right now. Like, tonight's lineup was almost damn perfect.
Right.
A lot of guys. It's like, okay, we're finding out information this time where wins and losses don't matter, because they don't. Losing's probably better. But you still need to make assessments on players.
Yeah.
Who do we need to balance the roster to get a better look at? Who just doesn't have it and doesn't need to be here? Like, those sorts of things, you're going to need young veterans. And the guys who will be good older players, still in, but exiting their prime, a little past their prime, but still good players if you're going to turn it around like in this decade.
Right.
Because young teams don't win. Look at how long it took McDavid, the best player we've seen in how long, to just get to a cup final.
I know, man.
Like, there are Crosbys who, a couple years out, they're in the cup final. They go to win the East back-to-back years. What was it, 08 and 09, after, they come out of the 05 lockout as rookies. Sometimes you can do it in a couple of years. Most of the time, it takes a ton of time. Look what I just said about Colorado. How long, like, those dudes were outside of Makar, like, in or even exiting their prime. Like, Gabe Landeskog hasn't played since he lifted the cup, And, like, that's a degenerative knee issue. It kind of sounds like he's got a Chase Utley situation going on.
Oh, man.
Where it's like, them knees just ain't never going to be right. Let's see what you can do with bad knees. But, like, it takes a while. And I just think the way they're doing it kind of pushes their timeline back. Now, there's lots of things they're doing right, but I just think the, like, insistence on having 2/3 of their lineup be 30 or between, like, 30 and 37 is a waste of that ice time. These games can still have value, even though winning them doesn't actually matter. That's it. That's the only point I was making. I'm not saying they're doing it wrong in terms of their big picture. Right. I don't think they are. I think they're doing it right. We've talked about this endlessly. But this step right here, I don't agree with. That's all. That's it. Having a bunch of 30-year-olds on a rebuilding team doesn't do anything for me.
But I mean, I'm just putting myself in those 30-year-old players too. Like, I mean, realistically, they know they're not going to be here down the line.
No, they're auditioning to be traded at the deadline for one last contract at the bottom of a roster on a good team. Like, that's what they're all hoping to do, and good for them. I just, like, if I'm Chicago, that might not be how I do this part of the rebuild.
And I just like, and I've told you this before, what I really like about our rebuild is I do feel like we are instilling that mentality, that winning mentality, that blue chip type of mentality, which does go far in the playoffs.
I like it while acknowledging I think we're all a little scarred by the team that plays in that building. We saw
You're not wrong.
and that so much has to do with drafting poorly. And like you talk about redundancy. Oh, let's take 3 straight centers. Like maybe not the best, Now the Flyers could take 3 centers, but like in hockey, multiple guys at the same position play a lot, like it's a little different. But like the redundant, like so much of it was bad drafting and bad roster management. But there does seem to be a culture issue with the top of that roster, and has been for a while. Like, I tweeted from the PHLY Flyers account about how much I enjoyed that Ben Simmons. I don't even know if you can call it a brick. It was like a tile last night.
How do you airball and layup?
They got that tile like Empire Today or something. Like, it was just unbelievable. But like, I think a lot of us who do maybe agree with this rebuilding plan, I agree with parts of it. I do acknowledge, I think a lot of us are scarred. Like, well, that didn't work. Like, they're a bunch of losers. Like, and we don't want that. But there are teams it has worked for.
Yeah.
Now, to varying degrees, like it worked for Toronto, but they still have only won 1 playoff round. They haven't been to a conference final yet. Like, it sort of worked, I guess you could say, for Edmonton because they got the best player in the world. But they've been to the Cup final and lost, and that's it. And now you have to give McDavid like $30 million a season or something. It'll be like 15, 16. And then you see how that works. Like, can we put a team together from here? It just takes a lot of luck. That's all. It just takes a ton of luck no matter what.
For real, dude. And like, dude, like we all want the championship. We all know that. But like getting that championship is so hard. What I really just want is a fighting chance. I want a fighting chance. I want to be one of the contenders.
So much of what a GM can do is putting a team together good enough.
Yes.
Like Paul Holmgren, listen, the second half of his tenure, it went to hell real fast. It was horrible.
Yeah.
The first half, he did everything he could. He perfectly managed, like even like a bad move like Steve Eminger, you turned into Matt Carl, and that worked out. They went to a Cup final.
Right.
Like there's some unfortunate injuries, like Andre Mazzaros along the way, Marc-Andre Bourdon, who probably could have helped bring your blue line along. But like he did everything right, and they just didn't do it. But they went to a conference final in 2008. They went to a Cup final in 2010. They almost, like, they were in the President's Trophy race up until like the last month of 2011.
Yeah.
Like, and then it all kind of just fell apart, and that's where culture comes in and patience maybe.
Yeah.
But all you can do as a GM is put a team out good enough. It still doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we have a ton of good players. Well, they didn't get it done. Like, what do you want me to do?
The other problem too, Bill, is that last time this team won a championship was in 75. A lot of the fan base wasn't even born since then. So we are feeling like that Eagles fatigue where they never won a Super Bowl. So a lot of us feel like we've never won the Cup. And that fatigue can settle in, man.
It absolutely, the fatigue can absolutely settle in. But we have hope. And you know what we have hope in? We have hope in Matvei Michkov.
Michkov.
And if you want to show some of that hope, I suggest checking out some merch at allphly.com. Check the merch tab. I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this, Bryn. So we might not have the graphics readily available.
Well, I mean,
But
Bill
right
is
now,
modeling it right now.
right now you can check out things like the Mad Russian hoodie. We also have the Mad Russian T-shirt. I really love the flag stack tee.
Yeah, dude.
Because just the black tee with our orange logo says PHLY. Listen, I know not everyone's like, oh, it's like a blog, a podcast. I don't want to support their stuff. This just looks like cool Philadelphia gear.
Yeah,
honestly, if you want to do that, we have the Michkov Mania T-shirt. Highly recommend getting yourself some Michkov stuff. And right now, like when I just went on, it was like, oh, get 10%. I've heard tell of a possible Black Friday sale.
Whoa.
Not telling you to wait till then, but if I were you, maybe I would check it out on like Friday. Just a thought. Allphly.com. Hit that merch tab.
So it's got your back, guys.
Really, really excited for you to be wearing our stuff. All right, let's check those super chats.
Super chats.
All right, let's see JH with the first one. The long ones, Bryn always laughs because she knows I can't see him unless she makes the screen like the size of your parents' phone when you look at it and you're like, what, are you blind? I'm like, this monitor is not close. That's all I'm telling you. It's not like I have great vision, but anyway, from JH. if Bedard is supposed to be a generational talent and the best draft/prospect in years, and Matvei Michkov is better, I'm just a hockey fan, so don't know what that means, but it's getting me excited. It's got me excited. Yeah, when you look at the numbers right now, as Charlie said, Bedard, 15 points in 20 games. Pretty damn good. A sophomore player. He is still younger than Mish, and I do think we need to take that into account. But he also has a whole year of experience in the toughest league in the world. Meanwhile, Michkov, 16 points in 19 games. That's better.
Dude,
I don't know if he's going to be better, but just being close is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Considering he was he's the guy. Like, Bedard is the guy in this draft, and we may have got the second guy, and it looks like right now their production pretty similar. The one thing I'll say, he's not playing center right now, but goddamn, did the Flyers need some centers? And Mish, as great as he is, he's a winger. That's probably what is going to end up being the case. Although I will say, he's fared pretty well in the faceoff circle when the center gets kicked out of the faceoffs. There's a lot more to play in center than faceoffs.
Right.
But it's one of the reasons they've moved Bedard out of that role. Mish hasn't been bad at it. That's all. All right, let's hit this next super chat from Vineet Singh. Who suits up on D when everyone is healthy?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, right now, the way they did it today, Zamula sits and Johnson plays. Grant stays in the lineup. I think we start to see probably a rotation at the bottom. They love Emil Andre. I believe unless Emil Andre either gets hurt or really, really falls off a cliff, he's staying in the top of this rotation. I mean, Sanheim played 25-10 today. Emil Andre, 24-05. He played more than Risto. He played more than York. York is his first game back in a month. So, okay, you're probably not going to give him 30 minutes immediately. He played 20 even, though. But I can see Emil Andre staying well within this top four, if not at least just an every night guy. You'll probably see some sort of rotation once Drysdale comes back of Grans and Johnson and Zamula. That's my guess. And we'll see what happens. Johnson takes a back seat in terms of priority, but I think we see a lot more Grans. I mean, he only played 12-19 tonight.
Yeah.
That first game where they got him in, it was oh my God, look at how much they're playing him. That was kind of well, we don't have anyone else. Mm-hmm. They are backing off his minutes, and he hasn't stood out nearly as much as he did that first game, but maybe he goes back because they need the roster spot. But I think there's going to be a rotation at the bottom of this line.
I agree. I mean, if you look at it right now, I would definitely, if Drysdale's healthy, I'm putting him in with Sealer, where he was before. But I mean, I know you kind of need Zamula because as we can all tell, these defensemen, they do get hurt. So it's nice to have some of that depth. But yeah, I mean, if there's one guy I would like to sub out, it would be Zamula.
It would be Zamula, and we talked about this with Charlie. He doesn't think they're just going to cast him aside.
I know.
Because they do believe he's got more upside, and they've invested a lot of time in his development. They want to see if he can turn it around and play closer to the guy he was last year. But right now, I bet it's a rotation, and I know they want Drysdale to play a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out of the lineup sometimes either, just because, listen, if he's a developmental project, developmental projects don't play every night.
Doesn't make
Matvei Michkov got scratched twice. Why wouldn't Jamie Drysdale get scratched a couple times?
No, you're right. It does make the deadline interesting.
All right. Before we go any further, I just want to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show, and we're going to wrap up the show with the rest of these super chats. All right, from David Weigert, who do we like better, squad, Kolosov or Fedotov? I think it's right now, Fedotov is playing better.
Yes.
But for the long term, again, think Fedotov turns 28 in 5 days, I believe it is. What is he really to the future of this team?
That's a good question.
I don't know. To me, the best case scenario with Fedotov is he continues looking like an okay NHL goalie, and you can trade him for something at the deadline next year. Talking about 2025, 26, but You turn a guy who was a 7th-round pick and got stolen by the Russian military, and we never thought we were going to get him, into anything? That's a pretty damn good return on investment.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kolosov, he's not ready. That's very obvious.
Got some raw talent.
But I think there's something there.
Yeah. I'm with that.
It's probably best served in the AHL. I don't know if he's going to report to the AHL if we send him there. The Kevin Kurz article a couple of days ago strongly suggested the Flyers believe, oh no, he's getting on a plane and going back to Russia if we demote him. The things he needs to get better at are adapting to the NHL. I don't know how he can do that over in the KHL, but we'll see. I like Kolosov's upside better, but right now Fedotov is playing better. Kolosov needs to develop. I don't know how he's going to do that if he refuses to go to the AHL.
It's going to be interesting, man.
All right, this next one here from Dorsal. Torts really needs Frost to be like Brad Richards. No, Torts needs Frost to score. That's the thing is he can do all the little stuff. That's great. But Torts has said he doesn't really care. You need to show effort on defense. You can't be a non-participant. But at the end of the day, if you're fine, you're just not a liability, and I don't think Frost is a liability anymore. He's not ever going to be good defensively,
right.
But he's fine. He's not killing you. He needs to score. The problem with Morgan Frost right now is he's not scoring. That's why he came out of the lineup.
Right.
And today, 1 shot on goal. He needs to score.
We need goals, people. We need goals.
All right. From, of course, Vince Pellegrini. Why not us? Because they needed overtime to beat the worst team in the league, Vince. That's today the answer is, they've needed overtime this year to beat San Jose and Chicago. That is why not us. Listen, I think this thing will come together. And Matvei Michkov has given us a reason to really believe. But, this roster still needs a lot of talent.
Yeah,
all right.
It does, man.
And finally, from Spiral Out, great show, fellas. Happy Saturday night, everybody. Go Flyers. And that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll be back with pre- and post-game on Monday, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you're following us right here on YouTube so you never miss a live show. Hit that reminder bell so you get those notifications. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. It's basically where I do all my tweeting now is from the Flyers account at PHLY_Flyers.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. That'll do it for us. My name is Bill Matz. That is JP Zapata. Till Monday, let's go Flyers.
Let's go.